What's up, everyone? This is the Retro Gamer Ranting. How are you guys doing? I'm doing fine. Today I want to take a look at an early access game called Unturned. It is actually a free-to-play, and it's that zombie survival open world game that you could also play with people if you wanted to. I'm just going to be talking about my single-player experience with this because I wasn't able to hook up with anyone at the time because there was no dedicated servers or anything. So I'm going to go on the record saying that I've usually avoided these games. I never played DayZ or any of the DayZ clones out there. But basically, this is DayZ if it looked like Minecraft, I guess. As you can tell by the video, the graphics are very, very minimalistic. I'll get to that later. And it basically is a game where you start off with absolutely nothing. I mean, literally your character is completely naked, except for his flashlight, a juice box, I think a candy bar. I'm not even going to ask where he was storing those on his person since he's not wearing any clothes to start off with. And you have to scavenge around the world around you and find supplies, bandages, weapons, clothes, of course, and food and water, and stuff to stave off radiation poisoning as well, which is your usual typical zombie survival stuff. There's a crafting element to it that I'm still learning. It's a bit complex for my tastes. I mean, the basic stuff I get, but you're actually able to, like, build buildings if you wanted to. You can, if you get an axe, you can chop down trees. If you get a pickaxe, you can mine rock. You know, and again, I'm a noob at these kind of games. I never got into it. And the only reason why I didn't is because I wasn't sure if I was going to like it. That's why I downloaded this game, because it was free to play, and I didn't have to pay nothing for it. I eventually did. Like, there's a $5 gold edition. Like, if you want to, you can pay $5. You can get on gold servers. You can get gold with double XP and stuff like that. Just a few extras. And in all reality, there's no real difference between... There's not a real big difference between gold edition and normal edition that I found yet. So it wasn't like it was a drastic change. There might have been a few more item drops, but one of my best characters I had was when I was playing before I was a gold member. So what I mean by that is, this is pretty much you pick one character and you're stuck with that character until you die. And the world is persistent. It stays, it's day, night, whether you're playing or not. And so if you stop playing in the middle of the day and you come back, it could be nighttime, in the game at least. And if your character dies, you can go back and loot your old dead character if you wanted to. So it's always good to remember where you died. The only problem is when you start over, you lose everything, which can be pretty frustrating, because when you start over, you get 4 inventory slots because you don't have a backpack yet, which is something you pretty much need to find immediately, and sometimes it's not possible because 4 inventory slots is hardly enough. Definitely frustrating on the early on, especially if you're new at it, because you're just wandering around, just finding all these items, and you want to take them, but you can't because you don't have enough inventory, and you're constantly dropping things, picking things up. You're like, oh, well, I don't have enough room for that juice box, but I am getting thirsty, so I'll drop this, pick this up, drink the juice box, pick back up my weapon. And so it's that constant inventory management. And if you're okay with that sort of thing, at least earlier on before you find a decent backpack, which one of my characters I found actually had a really good backpack. It was like a military backpack, and it like held everything. It gave me a ton of room. And unfortunately that character died. So I went back and started a new character, and I got a normal backpack, which was decent, but I was sad to see that character die. Which, that's just it. It's hardcore. No matter what, you're always playing on hardcore. You can't really save a character. So that character you're playing as it, and you can't switch to another character. You can't, be like, all right, I'm going to save this character and go to another character, as of yet at least. So that's kind of frustrating in that sense, but in another sense, it adds to the suspense of it all. You're constantly worried about dying, because when you're dead, you're dead. And unless if you get a good spawn point where you can get back to your dead corpse when you spawn, you're losing everything. Including, there's a level up system where you can basically level up your skills your crafting, how long it takes for you to get hungry or thirsty, that kind of stuff, how strong you are, how resistant you are to poisoning, that kind of stuff. And so you're constantly getting experience for that, and then use that to upgrade your skills. And once you're dead, that's all gone. You have to start all over again, which is kind of frustrating. So it does kind of sound like I've been kind of negative on it, but again, I'm new at these kind of things, so I am kind of negative on those sense, but I will get to some positives about it. It is really addicting. I come from, sans the crafting when it comes to trying to build things like a chest or a building or something where you gotta, grab some wood and you gotta craft this in order to craft that, in order to craft that. I kind of come from a more simpler crafting system from the games like Terraria, so it takes a bit to get used to, but it's kind of nice that you can take stuff you can find like a moldy orange and you can turn it into seed and then you can plant it real simply and then you can come back and as long as it's an area where you can remember where it is, you can get an orange later and use that to eat, and you could find clothes all over the place and then you could turn that into wraps so you can heal yourself, so it's kind of cool. The inventory management early on is a bit frustrating, but at the same time, it is a survival game, so it's like when you do finally find a backpack, you're like, oh, finally, and it's like a breath of fresh air, even if it only gives you 4 more slots or 6 more slots or whatever. Like, you're like, now I can finally maybe do something, and I can hold a gun with ammo now, and that kind of stuff. And it adds to the excitement of discovery. And since the drops are random every time you start playing or after you leave an area and come back to it, it'll be different items, so it's always worth re-exploring an area sometimes because, hey, it might have something new. And so that's really cool to it. You get firearms, but it's not recommended to use it because they'll make loud noises and you'll get swarmed. So you're mostly relying on melee weapons that you get early on. So, pro tip though, if you do get a melee weapon, always right-click swing, because that's your strong swing. It uses some stamina, and you can, if you hit right, it'll usually take out a zombie in one swing sometimes, depending on the zombie. So yeah, those are the positives to it. It's addicting. It has that addictive quality. You'll find yourself playing longer than you want to, and it's really, sad when you get really far with the character and you really feel like you lost something when you do die, and you will die a lot. And if you spent all that time building up a character, that's going to be like really emotional thing to you because you're like, oh, I lost all that. So it's usually not too bad if you can get back to that character, but sometimes you die in an area where you're not going to be able to get back to until you build up your old character again. With that brings the cons. It's really frustrating when you die, especially if you spend a couple hours with a character. 2, the zombies have weird hit detection. There are a lot of times, and this could just be me and my skill, I felt like, hey, I could have sworn I hit that zombie, and I just feel like my axe went right through him or something. And the crawling zombies especially are bad. They just seem to have such a tiny hitbox compared to the walkers or runners. So that's kind of a con to it. And the graphics, I'm all for stylized graphics. I am always beat the drum that I prefer a stylized graphics over realistic graphics. I've always been that way. Well, not always, but recently, at least enough, I've been that way. And in this case, I don't know. I'd like to say the graphics they suffice, but it makes an indie developer, it makes things easier for the indie developer, but there were a couple of times where I'm just like looking at the foliage and the grass and the ground, and I'm just like, how long did it take them to make that in MS Paint? It's nothing against it. It's not, it's not overly annoying to me, but I could see how other people are going to look at this game and be like, this looks horrible. Because it kind of has a bit of a drawn look where, he had his 5-year-old son drawing things for him while he was working on the coding or something. And it's okay. I get it. It's stylized. It probably makes things easier for the indie developer because you don't have to worry about advanced graphics and bump mapping and stuff like that. But in this case, I'm always one to support the lighter side of graphics when it comes to indie games because I just don't have the resources. But in this case, I just feel like at times like a little more texture to things because everything's just a color with maybe some lettering on it or maybe some texture here or there if you're lucky. Minor annoyance. I'm not going to really hold it against it too much. And another thing is the gold membership thing. I say it's worth it just to support it because it is fun and it does give you a little more experience. On this flip side, it's not going to mean too much compared to normal mode. Because like I said before, my main character, he had a great set, a great backpack, everything. And I found that before I became a gold member. I just did it because I like to support the indie developers, and I thoroughly did enjoy the game. You know, even with its problems, even with the frustrations with stuff, this was a good gateway game to me. It's still early access. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more added to it. So this is just my opinions, early access. So a lot of this could change. But I am enjoying it so far. And like I said, I never really played the whole zombie survival open world experience game before like DayZ. So this was sort of my introduction to it. And I think it did a pretty decent job, you know. And it got me hooked. Will I jump out and start playing DayZ tomorrow or something like that? No, I'm not. But will I play this again? I probably will, and I will keep my eye on it as it progresses. So, you know, it's early access right now on Steam. It's completely free to download. It's completely playable without having the gold membership, so you don't have to think, oh, if I don't have a gold membership, I'm not going to enjoy myself. No, it's completely fine. Again, I didn't get a chance to play online with people because I just did a single-player experience with it, so I'm not really sure on any of that. I do know there's no dedicated servers right now, so it's just basically people posting their IPs and stuff like that on the hub and forums and stuff, so you'd have to do that. So a little frustrating in that sense if you are into that kind of thing. I'm kind of a lone wolf when it comes to these kind of games anyway, so no big deal to me. So there you go. There are my thoughts on Unturned, a very boxy pixel graphics zombie survival game. Yes, I know, another one, right? But if you're curious for those kind, like I said before, I think this is a very good gateway game into it to see if you like these kind of zombie survival games where you have to sneak around, be careful, watch your surroundings, survive, build, craft, etc., etc. I think it's a good way to see if you are fit for this kind of genre. So give it a try. Go over to Steam Early Access and download it now. Can't go wrong for free. It's not a very big download considering. So, you know, the graphics might look a little weird, but hey, the good news is it's barely 50 megabytes or something. I don't remember. It wasn't a very big download, that's for sure. So, hey, what did you think of this? If you enjoyed my little early access preview, please feel free to like and share with your friends so I know that I am doing my job of entertaining you guys and giving you information that hopefully is useful to you. And it also puts a big smile on my face and lets me know I'm doing my job. As always, till next time, game fans, keep playing, and thanks for watching. Have fun zombie bashing.